Have you ever noticed that when you stop creating, life gets a little bit dull, a little bit flatter, quieter, like something essential isn't circulating anymore? This episode isn't about being an artist for a living. It's about why creating matters at all. We'll explore why creation isn't just self expression, but also a form of participation, and why the world doesn't just need more content. It needs creators like you specifically. Hello, hello, you lovely, beautiful beings. Welcome back or welcome to Muse. My name is Damaris, and this is the podcast where I talk about creativity, personal growth, and self expression, and how the three tie into what it means to live an authentic, creative life. And how can you build something like that for yourself? What are the things that come with being a creative and trying to have a creative life? Today's topic is more of a reflection, something I've been contemplating quite a bit in the last few weeks in coming up with the topics and things that I want to talk about, things that I find meaningful, and am looking also for connection in with other creators on different platforms. Because there is an important factor of what it means to be a creative, an artist, what it means to express yourself through your work. Doesn't matter the medium. And that's what I want to get into today, the meaning behind why we do what we do and why we have the desire to do what we want to do. Which sounds super vague right now. I know. But let's get into it. Think about creativity like circulation in the body. When it moves and as it's moving, it feels alive. It feels like something that's necessary. There's an energy flow to it. When it stops, nothing explodes or necessarily stops working, but things start to stagnate. There is a little bit of a diminished feeling of aliveness. Creation isn't something that's extra, a bonus that we get from life. It's how energy moves through human life. Creation is and exists all around us all the time, continually moving. It's something that we observe and feel and express in so many ways. Because as humans, we are extremely expressive. We have so many ways that we share our emotions and feelings and desires. And because of that, we know that humans have been creating since the beginning of time. Before they even had language, they created. There was art, not for decoration, but for communication and connection. Creation is how humans process reality together. And I know we're taught that creativity is personal, it's an indulgence, that it's optional. Also, that it's something that you either have skills for or you don't. But every meaningful piece of art has contributed something to someone somewhere. Whether it's in the beginning, as humans were starting to be able to express themselves, or now, the art that is created can impact everyone. Because creation gives language to unspoken feelings, to things that sometimes we don't know how to express or even understand. It says you're not alone in this experience, in being human. It gives permission to feel what you might have been suppressing. It offers a mirror that doesn't judge. So creation isn't just personal, it's relational, which then means that art doesn't end with the creator. It finishes with the observer. The reader, the viewer, the listener brings their own life to that piece of work, to that piece of art. You are contributing to what someone has made by observing it, by listening, by watching. There is a shared understanding and a recognition without explanation when you are engaging in someone else's work, in someone else's art. And sometimes the most intimate thing that you can share with someone is a way of seeing. And that's so beautiful. So when we look back through history, we don't remember art or creative work that was safe. We remember the people and the artists and the art that meant something, that was bold, that was impactful, that was moving culture, the things that changed the lens and perspective for society at the time. Michelangelo made the human body worthy of reverence. He was able to connect divinity, so God likeness, into human form, into the body, a physical being. He was able to portray emotion, strain, pain, embodiment as a whole, which then shifted the perspective of humans just being subjects of God, but being God-like, being created in God's image. So reflections of Him in human form and embodiment of the divine became sacred, not shameful, which at the time was a pretty radical way of viewing oneself when God was so divine and so distant and separate from us beings. There was no way that we could ever be almost on the same plane. So Michelangelo being able to portray these things impacted society in and the culture of our bodies being reflections of what the divine creator made. And that is beautiful in itself. It really changed how we looked at ourselves, our bodies, and humanity as a whole. When you change what is considered sacred, you change what people come to believe about themselves. Frida Kahlo, love her. As another painter, she made her private pain visible to the world. Her experience of identity, disability, and womanhood were just some ways that she expressed herself in her work, which wasn't portrayed before. It was just so radical at the time, and more so as a woman, it really helped society and other women see themselves in that work, which was a very male dominated world. Her work told people, you can feel this, you're not alone, we're in this experience together, whether it's exactly the same or not. It is a collective experience that in some way or another we go through these things. Beautiful, like amazing. James Baldwin wrote emotional truths as moral responsibility. He refused to be palatable. Everything that he shared, whether in his writing or in the way that he presented himself in interviews and the way that he expressed himself, was to create change and to impact people and behavior, to think in a different way, to see outside of themselves and put themselves in someone else's shoes, in someone else's perspective, by also sharing and talking about identity and sexuality masculinity, racism. So challenging readers to think outside of themselves, I think was a very radical approach at the time as a writer. And not that there weren't, of course, other writers that did this, but he did it in his own way, in his own expression that was impactful for so many people because everyone contributes their own little piece to the collective, to art as a whole. J.K. Rowling, another writer, really changed a whole generation of children to read long form writing again. Really created a space for children to be seen and for there to be a growth aspect to following a story. Harry Potter was huge when I was growing up. And to this day, I love watching the movies. And the stories are something that I think I will watch even when I'm old. I just think the way that she allowed not just children, but adults to imagine again, to create this whole other world, to follow the story of an orphaned boy into this magical realm that I think was so pivotal at the time. It really did change culture as I was growing up. That's the kind of art that, even though it's not the most impactful story necessarily, there were such meaningful things that came out of that. Being able to find yourself in friendship and creating family, identity, and trusting yourself. It does shape who people become and how people view themselves, which is so fascinating how generationally that can impact so many people. I wanted to include a singer or a musician in this list of artists and came to David Bowie, who is iconic for his experimentation and being able to evolve in person super visibly to everyone. He blurred the lines between feminine and masculine, human and alien, self and performance, which helped society and culture to come to understand that identity doesn't need to be a fixed thing. Reinvention became visible again. He didn't just change styles, he changed what people thought was possible for the self in a radical way, in a visible way. He showed that you're allowed to evolve out loud. He made becoming visible. And that's something that impacts me so much because I continually, if you've been here for a while, I continually evolve like every month. I'm constantly looking for ways to grow, to change, to think about things in a different way, which then causes ripples in other areas of my life and in my work and how I want to be showing up and what I want to be doing is constantly evolving. And sometimes I wonder if the impact that I'm trying to make with these videos and my work even resonates with other people because I'm constantly changing. And sometimes I'm changing my perspective on something, my opinion on something that maybe I've said something in the past and now I have a different opinion about it, or that opinion has evolved somehow, which is not bad, of course, but doing that publicly is hard sometimes because it's hard to relate to someone that is continually changing. And as humans, we do want to put people in boxes. We want to be able to understand someone and where they fit in to our culture or society and how you can relate to them. So being able to understand, oh, this person does this type of work, they're a creative or artist, and they are this type of artist. and kind of niching down and niching into this box helps you be more palatable, helps you become more understood and gain traction and followers or whatever, be visible, which I find that as someone else like David Bowie, not that I'm trying to compare myself to David Bowie because, you can't, but as someone that changes and evolves so frequently and does so many different creative things, I can understand that it is difficult to relate to somebody like that. And being on the other side, being the artist, similar to David Bowie, I'm sure it's difficult just thinking about what you want to do without thinking how are people going to receive what you want to do. There is always an element of, okay, but how are people going to receive what I want to do? Because it could be so out there, it could be different, it could be misunderstood or not understood at all. And that is hard sometimes to be able to want to express yourself anyways. So having someone like David Bowie as an example for me, that he did it anyways. He still experimented and tried and was like, well, I don't care. I still want to. And I think I even saw an interview. It's not even that he didn't care fully. I think it was more like he had to do it. And I feel very similar in that way. It's just like, I can't help that I'm evolving. I can't help that I want to try something else, that I want to experiment. That is who I am. And if I don't do that, I am not being true to myself. So I sort of have to say, fuck it. Like, even if people don't fully get me, I need to express myself in this way. I need to be able to share who I am in this moment the most authentically. And if that means it's not going to fit into this box, then it's not going to fit in the box. And that's a really cool reminder, even as I was working on this outline and working on this episode, for me, who struggles in this on both sides. I wanted to share about these artists because these artists made a difference in culture. And culture doesn't move because it's instructed to move. It moves because someone shows another way to see, another perspective. And then there's the shift. Culture changes. And I think that's why there are a lot of people, it could be you, that stop creating because you don't think that your work matters. And maybe you start confusing contribution with numbers, with the visibility that maybe you're not getting. And trust me, I've been there. I get that comparison. I get that struggle. Contribution isn't reach, it's clarity. One honest expression, one moment of recognition, one shared reflection. The collective starts to change as recognition is shown and seen and felt. But how does that even happen then with the contribution that you're giving, that you're doing, that you're putting out there? And maybe you're going to say to me, okay, I get what you're saying. I love art. I love watching other creatives. I support artists. And you might feel, I don't think that I'm a creative. Wouldn't call myself an artist. That's fine. Not everyone is going to be expressing themselves through creative work in the way that we, I think, try to box what creativity actually is. Because I've mentioned this before, but I think creativity is so much more than art. But I digress. Engaging with art is participation and just as important in the contribution of the impact of someone's work and someone's expression of their work. So watching, listening, feeling, experiencing art are not passive acts. Art connects us, even if we're making something or not. We're still creating meaning. There's a meaning of the expression of the artist. There's a meaning as the observer that is receiving what they need to receive from that art. And there is this conversation. There is an expression from you then that is receiving whatever you need to receive from that art, however you interpret that. And that is just as valuable, just as important as the person that created the art. Because without the viewer, there is no collective. There would just be expression only. But there isn't a reciprocal part of the expression, which is where someone feels impacted by someone else's work. And whether they share that with someone else or not, it still changes you on the inside. And again, will change the way you show up in the world, and then will change the collective, and so on and so forth. It'll change culture. It will just continually move throughout. It'll expand. And that's what's so beautiful about art and creativity and self-expression. Ultimately, creation is about becoming. It's not about how much work you put out there, but about the practice. Every piece practices honesty, perception, and courage. You practice saying what you mean. Practice trusting your perception. You practice existing out loud. You don't wait to evolve and then create. Creating is the experiment that causes evolution. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs people willing to notice, to articulate, and to share. What creators contribute isn't just what they see. It's the reflection that we recognize in each other. And I think that that's the most meaningful point that I want to make. As someone that is creating, I do it because I want to create meaning. I want to connect with other people. I want to create impact. I want to share my experience in whatever ways that looks like. It's not always going to be consistent. It's not always going to be clear. But the practice and the process of being able to do that and to share that and to experience how other people receive it is so valuable to me, is so meaningful, and gives me back the energy and the passion and desire to continue to do what I'm doing. So there's so much meaning to being a creative, to being an artist, and why it's so valued and a need in our society, in our lives. Your expression, your creativity, your art, your response, and your perspective is part of that participating in the collective, in the impact that changes the way that we view ourselves and view each other in this world. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. If you've stuck around to the end, I hope that you found some meaning and have felt seen as an artist, as a creative person, as someone who's expressing themselves. Please like, follow, share, subscribe if you liked this episode. It really helps me to continue to create more work like this, and it helps for my work to go out there to other people that could resonate with it. Have an amazing rest of your week. See you next week, and as always, keep creating. Bye.